had a chapter in one of the books on people's looks and like how we are prejudiced in people based on their looks. And one of the studies I thought was funny that you cited. It was about the faces of like military men. Do you remember? West Point graduates or something, and then you could predict how far they would in the military. And your interpretation was, well, we're stereotyping them as, you know, something, or like they're getting an advantage. Isn't the other possibility that maybe like the facial features do correlate with some underlying real trait? I mean,
the thing is that study controlled for everything else they could think to control for, which you think would also. So they controlled for athletic ability in West Point and grade point average and many other things. So I think it's a little hard for me to think that it's correlating with something that doesn't predict athletic ability. That's correlating something that doesn't predict athletic ability or grade point average or family backgrounds. But as I thought it was pretty convincing. I think the evidence on looks and how superficial we are is, and how much, like I was writing that chapter and they go, so the most famous study in this arena is this Alexander Todorov that he shows people pictures of two pictures, people running for an election, Senate and congressional races, gubernatorial races as well, and just ask them which one looks more competent. And 70% of elections are won by the candidate that people say is judged more competent, and again try to control for everything else that still pretty much holds. And so I was working that book during the Democratic primary, 2020 Democratic primary, and everyone's like, well, who's going to win the primary? And I say, well, it doesn't really count, because if you advance to this level, you already have to look the part. So, you know, everybody who's running, the serious candidates already look the part. But I'm like, but Biden clearly looks more like a president than any of these other people. But I didn't stick my neck out and be like, Biden's going to win. But it was, if you line them up and said which one looks like president, I think it was pretty clear that Biden was.
I don't know, like, Biden, do you think like that. So? Like Seth Moulton sort of looks like a president to me, right? He went nowhere. Yeah, I think
of the serious candidate. Obviously, there's
why didn't he ever get attraction? Because he was a congressman, and
he does look like
you might have imagined he would have done a little bit better. You know, you look at someone like Amy Klobuchar. You know, there's the sex differences, and so like I don't know, like Amy Klobuchar doesn't really.
Well, it's 70%, so it's not 100%. Obvious. I mean, just look at the height of politicians.
Yeah, but
that's not predicting anything.
You know. In areas of life, probably this doesn't work for politics, because we as a species, one thing we evolved better to do than anything else is read people's faces. So like, you know, a human can recognize human faces better than any machine. It's a thing machines can't match us on. And it's like, you know, maybe like we are very good at picking up these cues. So if you're looking at military men, you're like, yeah, you control everything. But like, I have this machine in my brain that's been honed perfectly for exactly this task, looking at people's faces and seeing, you know, what their underlying traits are. And so, you know, you can't dismiss the possibility that, you know, maybe that they're, you know, we're discriminating against people based how they look, but also at the same time, like the looks are actually telling us something.
Well, it's also telling us it may be if everybody's discriminatory, then it might be wise to be discriminatory in this way. So a lot of people in 2020 Democratic primary just wanted to find someone electable. So if they say this guy looks most like the president, then the general election voters are going to also think he looks more like the president and vote for him, then that would be maybe wise. I think Peter Thiel said something like this. Maybe we should think more about, he always tries to say these, you know, go against conventional wisdom. So he's interviewed in the New York Times. They said Trump cares too much about what people look like. And
Peter said maybe
we should think more about what people look like. I don't want my Secretary of State you know, looking like a schmuck when he's negotiating against the other country. But
yeah, I think that was Marie. I think that was like I think he was talking to Maureen Dowd actually. Yeah, I remember reading the exact same thing and also being struck by it, because I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. I mean, I was reading some kind of summary of a study of how do you pronounce that word? Physiognomy, about the how.
I think that's right.
It was saying that like you can actually look at men and then just look at their faces and predict like how racist. I don't know. I don't always like these definitions of racism they have in political science, but whatever they were measuring, you could see that. And then so it's like this is a thing that used to be, and it's like you could do this for how racist people are because like you could say racism is unquestionably bad, but like if you wanted to do that for like intelligence or criminality, it would probably be politically a lot harder. So I just wonder, I don't think we're at a place. I think the taboo on sort of this genetic determinist stuff is so, and lookism is just like so strong that I don't, we just don't know what we don't know, because I don't think there's much good research that can be done.
But there's also a question: if you start, I asked, actually, I was interviewing Todorov for the book, and I asked him if there have been any studies, which I found really interesting, if people start acting like the way they look. So if you look really presidential, are you going to start acting more presidential? I always suspected that like really attractive people always converge on this, not always, but with very high probability converge on this very uncontroversial persona where they're just very nice to people, because you don't need to rock the boat. If you're Tom Brady's always nice to everybody, always shaking everybody's hand. Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Thank you, Mr. Belichick. Super respectful. And there's no need to, it's just such a successful strategy. There's no need to shake things up at all. And I've seen a lot of people in the 99th percentile of looks, so I feel like act in a very a similar personality. I do wonder if there's a way in which a different personality is going to work better on different people's faces.
Actually, another Judith Rich Harris thing, I remember when she was talking about twin studies, and so one of the potential objections was people treat identical twins alike, so they become more alike. Yeah. And then she mentioned a study. I don't know how solid this is, but they found doppelgangers. They found like me. They would find somebody who looks like me but is in no way related, and apparently they didn't find any correlation in personality. So if that's true, it goes against what I've been just saying, but it is a way to.
Todorov said there hasn't been a good study on this, but I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, and that would go against people treating them different, and that would also go against the physiognomy as a real force. But I just like intuitively, like you look at some people, you look like a military man, that looks like a military. That guy's not going to be just like intuitively. I have very strong intuitions about like some people look.
But I gotta think that we're horrible at actually making these judgments. I agree that it's a politically sensitive area. Like I think there are many times where, I follow you on Twitter. I follow a lot of people on Twitter who say things that I'm like, yeah, that's 100% true, and nobody wants to say it. I would be surprised. That one doesn't ring true to me. That one rings as we're just misled. That there's no reason to think that someone who looks like a general has any better ability to. I guess. Well, if other people are tricked.
Yeah.
If others, okay, but like this example, that they've also done studies that people who look baby-faced are more likely to get off on a crime than people who don't look baby-faced. Because they're like, that person can't be a criminal. Come on, look at his face. And that, there's just no, I would be shocked if there's some big correlation that we're picking up on, that really people who are baby-faced are less likely to commit crimes.
Well, the physiology. So if you give like people like testosterone injections, right, they will change, personality will change, and looks will change too. So there's a lot in your body that's, the mind and the body are not completely that separate. It's, the certain hormones, certain traits are going to be associated with both. And you'd think we'd be decent at picking that up. Like, you prefer, like if you say, like, I don't know about like differences between generals, like who is a good general or who is not a general, but you take like generals as a class and then you compare them to literature professors or something. Like, I would be shocked if there was a universe where all the literature professors look like generals and all the generals look like literature professors. How do you feel? What's your intuition about that?
Yeah, but I agree. I don't know I don't know how to interpret that difference. I think a lot of it is people leaning into what your best shot at having a successful life. So I do suspect that if you did studies like the ones I was recommending that Todorov do, that people do lean into their look a little bit. That I don't know that that if everybody is drawn to you from a very young age as a leader or as a politician, you're going to be more likely to become a politician. If everyone thinks of you as a
Yeah.
professor,
But
then you're more likely to become a
these
professor.
sort of stereotypes and what people think about, they have to sort of seem like they would be based in so like, why do we think that this is a general, this looks like a leader, and this looks like an intellectual, and this looks like a criminal? It does seem like, maybe they're leading into it, and so they're exaggerating the natural differences. But it seems like
Well, I think the criminal one, we're probably confused by the difference between children and adults, maybe. That baby faced people remind us of kids who do legitimately commit fewer crimes. So we're like, a kid's not going to murder someone, but
or like, yeah, a man who looks a little bit more feminine. Yeah, same thing. Women are less likely to commit crimes too. You're so it could be just some kind of
yeah, that would
faulty
be an example of us
overgeneralization.
overgeneralization from a different sample.
Ah,
I would be
interesting. Yeah.
shocked if there isn't overgeneralization. I think there's also, so Nassim Taleb has this point that if you go to a doctor and there are two surgeons, maybe you've seen this, one of them looks like George Clooney and one of them looks like a butcher at the same hospital, go with the
Yeah.
butcher, because the butcher has to be so much better to have reached that point, because we are so give such an advantage to people who look the part, that you want to go over the price. I wanted to do a study. I still might do it. I didn't fit in this book of NFL coaches, because I'm a huge Jets fan, and the Jets always hire a coach that just looks like he's going to be an amazing coach, and he just has this deep voice. He looks like the military man. He's like just dominant, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we got it. We solved it this time." And then the coach freaking sucks. And I wonder if there's a similar phenomenon that, in my opinion, the two most successful NFL coaches of the modern era are Andy Reid, who looks like a plumber, and Bill Belichick, who looks like, I don't know, like a high school history teacher or something.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you correlated across all the coaches, that coaches that look the part less are more likely to be successful, because to reach that level, they have to be so much better than these schmucks the Jets always hire, who look like they were born to be NFL coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is interesting hypothesis, is that it seems testable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people have different intuitions. It's hard to. I mean, that's why I think, having taboo on researching these things is so bad, because we were sitting here and we're speculating, and it's fascinating. There's different ways to sort of understand it or look at it, and people have different intuitions. So it'd be cool to just try to learn as much as possible about these things.